back to hero training. Put on your capes and masks and let's go! Last week we talked about being truthful. This week we're going to talk about being grateful. Being thankful to God and others. It lets God and others know we appreciate them. Doesn't it feel good when someone says thank you to you? It always is nice. I like to hear it when someone tells me thank you. And it makes me feel good when I say thank you to someone else, too. Can you think of a time that you were grateful? I can think of lots of things that I am grateful for. I'm grateful that I have a house to live in, that I have food to eat, that I have a family, and I have a church to go to. I bet you can think of lots of things that you're grateful for, too. Can you think of a time that you weren't grateful? There might be a time that maybe you forgot to say thank you for something. Try and remember that this week when you're thinking about the word grateful. This week we're going to read a story about how Captain Naaman was grateful that God healed him. Go wash in the river. Little Maid was far, far from home. She worked for Captain and Lady Naaman. She washed dishes, she ran errands. Little Maid did everything Captain and Lady Naaman asked her to do. Except one thing. One thing Little Maid did not do. Captain and Lady Naaman prayed to an idol, an ugly stone idol. The idol couldn't see, it couldn't hear. When Captain and Lady Naaman asked Little Maid to pray with them to the idol, Little Maid said, "Oh no, I cannot pray to an idol. I pray to the God in heaven. He sees me. He hears me." One morning when Little Maid took Lady Naaman her breakfast, Lady Naaman was crying. "Why do you cry?" asked Little Maid. "Captain Naaman is sick. He has leprosy spots. The doctors cannot make him well." "I know someone," said Little Maid, "who can make Captain Naaman well. If he will go to the prophet at my home, far, far away, the prophet will know what to do to make him well." Lady Naaman told Captain Naaman what Little Maid said. "I will go see the prophet," said Captain Naaman. "I will take him presents." The prophet saw Captain Naaman and his men coming down the road. He had heard about Captain Naaman's sickness. He sent a man to meet him and tell him what to do. "Tell Captain Naaman," said the prophet, "to go wash in the river Jordan 7 times, and he will be well." Captain Naaman said to his men, "Does the prophet think I'm dirty? Does he think I need a bath? I will not wash in that muddy river." Captain Naaman was angry, very angry, because the prophet told him to go wash in the river. "I will go home," said Captain Naaman. Captain Naaman started home. The men on horseback rode up close beside him. They said to him, "If the prophet had asked you to do something big, would you have done it? Why don't you do this little thing? Why don't you go wash in the river?" Captain Naaman drove slower, and at last he turned off the road and drove down toward the river. The river was muddy, but Captain Naaman waded out into it. He dipped down under the water. Then he looked at his hands and arms. The leprosy spots were still there. Captain Naaman dipped under the water again, but the leprosy spots were still there. He dipped again. The spots were still there. His men on the riverbank watched anxiously as he dipped again and again and again, but always the spots were there, and they were as large as ever. Captain Naaman dipped under the water the 7th and last time, and the spots were gone. Captain Naaman looked at his hands, he looked at his legs, he looked all over his body, but not a single spot could he find. The spots were all gone. He was well. His men clapped their hands and cheered. Captain Naaman ran splashing out of the river. He jumped into his chariot. He galloped his horses back to the prophet's house to tell him thank you. Captain Naaman bowed low before the prophet and thanked him. He offered him presents he had brought. But the prophet said, "I cannot take the presents. I did not make you well. It was the God in heaven who made you well." Captain Naaman and his men hurried home. When he came near, he shouted, "I am well! I am well!" And now, when Captain and Lady Naaman prayed, they didn't pray to the idol that couldn't see and couldn't hear. They prayed to the God in heaven, and Little Maid prayed with them. Thank you, God in heaven, prayed Captain Naaman. Thank you for making me well. That was a story about Captain Naaman and how God healed him. In the story, he wasn't sure about the way that he was going to be healed, but God healed him. And then Captain Naaman said thank you to the prophet. He was grateful to the prophet, but the prophet said that he wasn't the one that healed him. God healed him. So Naaman went home and he was grateful that God had healed him. And to show how grateful he was, he prayed and he thanked God. What are some ways that Jesus was grateful? Jesus gave thanks when he fed the 5,000. Jesus thanked his Father for hearing his prayer. Jesus gave thanks at the Last Supper. Why is it important to be grateful? How often should we be grateful? It's important to be grateful all the time. When somebody gives you something or somebody does something or maybe God provides for you, make sure you say thankful. Thank you. This week, our memory verse is, "Oh, give thanks to the Lord, for he is good, for his mercy endures forever." Psalm 106:1. I want you to be thinking about that verse this week as you're thinking about all the ways that you are all the things that you are grateful for. If you met one or more of your challenges from last week, make sure you let us know so we can get you your sticker. Here are your challenges for this week. Challenge number 1, memorize this week's verse. Number 2, count your blessings. Make a list of all the things that you're thankful for. I bet that list is going to be pretty long. Number 3, spend some time every day praying, "Thank you, God, for" prayers. Thank you, God, for my family. Thank you, God, for the sun shining. Those are things that you can say in your prayers. Number 4, write a thank you note to someone and either give it to them or send it to them in the mail. They will really appreciate that. Good luck. I can't wait to hear how you were grateful this week.